Hedgehog Press is an independent fine art print shop in Fort Wayne that brings together an eclectic mix of emerging and established artists along with the public to provide educational and art-making opportunities for everyone through the creation of prints. Owner Julie Wall Toles is an IPFW Fine Arts alum and the owner of Hedgehog Press, and I am pleased to have her here today to learn more about this creative endeavor. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Oh, well, you're welcome. I have seen some of your work and it is just so beautiful and interesting, and I would love for you to tell me a little bit about yourself and how you became involved in this art and craft of printmaking.
Well, I've always been interested in the arts, even as a young child. I remember I always wanted to be an artist, and my mom always told me you could be whatever you wanted to be. I just didn't know how much work it would be. Yeah. But I really took that to heart, and when I started here at IPFW, going for my BFA, I really wasn't sure what area to go into, and I took my first printmaking class and really fell in love with it and the whole technicality process behind it, so I immediately switched to printmaking.
Can you define printmaking? I'm sure there are people out there who may think they know what it is, or
I think one of the easiest ways to talk about what it is, there are different forms of printmaking, obviously, but one of the ways I like to describe it is if you roll up your fingerprint with ink and you push it onto a piece of paper, you have these beautiful little lines that are from your thumbprint, and it doesn't look like just a big blob. So that's a good way to describe what a print is. So it's just
it's a very low-tech print.
It is a very low-tech print, but you can do a lot with that.
So you have evolved this love of printmaking to this point in Hedgehog Press. What is Hedgehog Press, and how did you get the idea to open this studio?
Oh, Hedgehog Press it's a lot of different things to me. Primarily for me, it's a place where I can create my artwork. As a printmaking graduate, it's really hard to find a place to create your work when you're not currently enrolled in a university or working at a university. And many other big cities have print shops like Hedgehog Press, and I just thought it was time for Fort Wayne to do that. So I really find joy in helping other artists too in the community continue their work in printmaking.
So the idea of opening Hedgehog Press, was it kind of evolving then as you were a student and kind of wondering how am I going to take this major in this art that I love and make a living?
It was. It's it's forever changing too, which I think you have to be flexible, especially when you're in a creative-driven field. You have to be open to things changing, and I honestly wasn't thinking too seriously about starting Hedgehog Press until the opportunity was there with this little building that I saw, and I called my husband and said, can I buy a building and start a print shop? And he said yes.
Wow.
So he was supposed to talk me off the ledge, but he didn't. He was very encouraging.
So what is the significance behind the name Hedgehog Press? I mean, these little creatures can be kind of cute, but a little dangerous.
Yeah, they kind of work their way into an environment. They get in there and they don't want to get out, which is one thing that fits really well. But also, symbolically, hedgehogs represent artistic freedom, feminine empowerment, and optimism. So little hedgehogs had it going on. It just worked out really well.
Well, the logo and artwork that you've created for it is really very...
Thank you.
It's not only lovely, but it works. It's
thank you.
It's the right look for it. So in your building and your shop, you are offering classes and workshops? Tell me about those.
I do lots of classes and workshops for kids and adults, artists and novices alike. So you don't have to ever have taken an art class or ever have done any printmaking before to take a workshop at my place. And actually, those are sometimes the most fun classes because people are really surprised at what they come out with and what they can create. But yeah, the kids classes are really fun too, and we always make lots of different things. The schedule is always up on my website. Okay. And I host print parties too, so that's always fun for a birthday party or something as well.
Well, and I want to talk in detail about your equipment that you use, but in these classes then you're actually teaching the students to use the equipment that's there in your shop.
Yep, some of the classes are geared toward using the equipment, and other classes are my way of helping people learn how they can make prints outside of a print shop. So those are kind of nice too, because I've met people that have taken them and then continued to make prints in their home, which is really gratifying for me to hear that. So
The equipment that you have, tell me about that, because this is very unique. This is not the same thing as, like, you know, firing up InDesign on your computer
Exactly.
and, you know, printing out party invitations.
I think that's the one thing that whenever I have kids in the studio, or I do a workshop or anything at the art museum and there are kids there, I always tell them this isn't like your computer where you just click print. Right. You have to physically do this. And this was the first form of social media, which just blows them away. And I've got 3 presses, and all of them are each over 100 years old. Wow. My biggest one, which is getting repaired right now, I met with the man repairing it, Scott Rizzo, last night, and he found a serial number on it and looked it up, and it's from 1887.
Oh my goodness.
Which, it blows me away that that's 20 years after the Civil War was over, and I just can't imagine what was being printed on it at that time. And I get a little nostalgic when I print my own things on it, thinking how important this press was to so many other people before me. It was probably
news and things. It wasn't
Oh
just,
yeah, exactly,
art.
Exactly. So I always imagine what current events were they printing during that time, and
right.
It really makes me feel, it makes me feel special to be able to use that machine, and knowing that somebody will use it when I'm gone too is really, really neat for me. But also, I have a responsibility to that press to kind of get different current events out there in my own way too.
Now, is that technically a letterpress?
That's a letterpress.
Okay.
I've got 2 letterpresses. One is the big self-standing one that's from 1887. Mm-hmm. The other is a smaller tabletop version, which I've taken to schools and done little demonstrations, and the Art Museum has hosted a couple demonstrations, which have been really, really fun to do. And then I also have an Intalio press, so that would be what I make etchings and can print some relief prints onto.
What does Intalio mean?
Intalio means it's a way of printmaking in which the lines and the value that you're printing are incised into something.
Okay.
So whether that's a copper plate or a zinc plate, or even a wood block that you carve in and you rub the ink into, it means that you're pulling ink out of a
So like an impression
substrate.
As a
or exactly.
Actually moving the paper.
And we do copper at my shop, so if you would like to take a workshop, you can learn how to do that, and you don't even have to know what the word Intalio means to sign up.
You don't have to spell it.
Right.
Now, how hard has it been to acquire this equipment for your shop?
You know, that's one of the presses. I drove to Georgia. I found it online. I drove to Georgia to get it, which was a long weekend, but it was really fun. The large one I actually bought from someone in town who had it in a garage for a while, and it needed some love. And then my Intalio press came from New Zealand, and I formed this great relationship with a printer in New Zealand, and now I have a standing invitation to go print with him, which I will do someday.
So guide me through this process of using something on a press. How do you get from, you know, the idea to the printed object?
It's sometimes a long process, depending on especially which press or which process you use. There are so many different medias within printmaking itself, so it's very diverse. As far as the letterpresses go, that's definitely a labor of love. Each little letter or word, you set each letter in, usually upside down and backwards. Right. So I find it hard to read forwards anymore. Yeah. I'm so used to backwards. And you set it all into the press, and you have to get the ink out. It's, like I said, a labor of love, but it's really fun and gratifying too, to see your idea come to life then in the end.
That's where the phrase "minding your P's and Q's" came from,
exactly,
isn't it? Because
exactly.
They backwards, they look kind of
they
like each other.
They look the same. It's also a funny one too, is when you're all out of sorts. It means you're out of the individual little letters, so okay. You don't want to run out of sorts.
Those typographers were an interesting
they're
bunch.
Silly.
So these processes, then you've got wax casting. Is that done on one of your presses? Is that
no?
Okay, I just looking at a note here that what are the processes then, besides you've got the, you know, where you're actually putting the type in place?
We've got the letterpress, which is the type, and then I do relief printing, which you can carve either a wood block or a linoleum block, and we have ways of running that through the press or printing them without the press, so you can do it again at home. And then we also focus on Intalio printing, which is the copper plate etchings. So
and is that actually a press that keeps running the paper through, or is that like a single process?
It's manual, so you run each paper through yourself. And it was funny, my power went out the other day, and I just kept on printing because I didn't need the power, and it was light enough that I could see. So it's kind of, it's nice because they are so old that that was something that they couldn't always count on would be electricity.
So we've got a couple things coming up. What are these
This particular print, this is an intaglio, and it's actually a 2-plate etching. So the bird and all of the lines that look like they're engulfing the bird is on one plate, and then the background's on another. So that would be a wood block. So that was carved out of a block of wood.
Okay.
And those are just some custom printing that I also do, some business cards that I've done before. I do lots of wedding invitations and things of that nature too. Oh, there's my Fort Wayne greeting cards, which you can find at the Visitor Center. There's some wedding invitations.
And was this done on the letterpress?
This was done on the letterpress. Yep. Anything with lettering or type on it would be the letterpress. So it's been wedding season.
Yeah. So you've got graphic art and fine art, and kind of they become the same.
Exactly.
Sometimes
Exactly. They
method.
really blend together. Printmaking is by nature a graphic art, and many printmakers weren't. You know, when they're printing type like that, they didn't consider themselves artists. They were typesetters and printers. So it's kind of nice to mix the two together. And most people that take my classes are graphic designers. So.
And what kind of things are they creating there?
Lots of different things. The wood blocks that were just shown earlier of the moth or the butterfly, they create things like that. The Intalio, we have a class coming up, which I'm really excited to see what people will come up with for that too. The kids' classes, we just did a little girls' class where they printed on bags and cards for their moms and things like that. So anything we can print on.
Invitations and things. You do a lot of wedding invitations and party invitations.
I do custom work for people, and I'm always welcoming of that. And actually some of the invitations too, it's fun if I have it all set up and ready to print. The bride and groom in some cases have come in and run the presses and get their picture taken printing their own wedding invitations, and then they step aside and let me finish them.
So you can actually create the project for them, or they can come in and learn how to do it themselves.
Yep, I can print for them, or they can come in and learn. So.
And where is your shop for people who want to come in, and where is it, and when are you open?
It's just outside of downtown. It's on the corner of Tecumseh and Columbia. And it's 1136 Columbia Avenue, and it's in a little triangular building that I painted lime green, so you really can't miss it when you're in the neighborhood. And I'm open Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 3 to 7, and Saturday from 10 to 4.
Great. Now, and you have an exhibit of your work coming up at the Fort Wayne Museum of Art. When does that open?
The exhibit opens August 31st and runs sometime through October, so if you're going to be a tourist in your own hometown, check out my print show, and it really shows you the process of how to create a print. So they took some of my carved wood blocks and some of my tools and things, so it should be a fun show.
Well, great. Well, Julie, thank you so much for being here. And what is your website and contact info again?
My website is hedgehogpressfw.com, and that's just got all the information that you need on it. So
well,
thank you so much.
Oh, thank you. I'm Melinda Haines with the IPFW College of Visual and Performing Arts. Please join me next time on Arts Weekly when we'll meet Dana Goodman and Chris Gans of the IPFW Department of Fine Arts as they tell us the story behind their current visual arts gallery exhibition, Capturing Italy. Plus, we'll learn all about Samalan, a confluence of North and South Indian flute music taking place September 14th as a part of the IPFW and Shruti Indian Performance Series. For up-to-the-minute arts updates, you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube, and be sure to join us here live Thursday evenings at 7:30 on PBS 39. Thank you for watching.